Okay, chapter 4, part 2. You have to ignore the barking dogs. They're still outside. Gee, the redhead said after gazing after Hunter. I hope he gets him, but I wanted to be in on it. Jancy, her face full of new hopes, asked Emmett, Do you think Hunter will get him? Isn't likely, he said. Despair settled over the girl again. If he doesn't, I'm sunk. Won't your aunt give you more money? Rusty asked. It wasn't your fault. Shaking her head so her hair flew, she told him, I don't think so. She wasn't keen on me riding around the island by myself. More dogs barking. That's tough, Rusty agreed. Maybe Hunter will think of something. I will ask him in the morning. You're lucky to have Hunter do things with, Jancy told him. You're going to get to have a picnic tomorrow. Yeah, and swim at British Landing. Oh, it was almost a sigh. I love to swim almost as much as I love to paint and draw. Rusty looked at his watch again. I've got to go, he said, but we'll see what we can do for you. He was out the door, on his bike, and away. In the meantime, Hunter was racing along Lakeshore Boulevard, avoiding people in potholes by inches. When he reached the big shallow cave called Devil's Kitchen, he paused. Some tourists were having a picnic there. A quick glance showed him that the handicapped rider was not among them. Farther on, there was a marker to show where the British had landed in 1812 and captured the island in a surprise attack. Hunter stopped. Here, the dirt road down the center of Mackinac met a paved road. The guy might have gone on, or could have turned onto the smaller road. Hunter looked carefully, but there was no bike tracks. It was hopeless for him to go on. He would go home, get something to eat, and then ride around town for groceries. At the old rundown house on the battlefield, he turned onto the little path, thinking how much had happened today. He whistled as he dropped his bike and unlocked the door. It sure was good to have his old place to come back to. Inside, though, he gasped in horror and dismay. The back window had been smashed in by a large rock that was laying on the floor. There were splinters of glass on the floor and furniture. Fear went right through the boy. Kirby had warned him that someone might break in and steal things. His eyes went to the nail where his owl headdress always hung. He couldn't believe it. The headdress was still there. Also, the ancient pottery bowl, the peace pipe, and the arrowheads were still on the shelf where they belonged. Maybe he had arrived in time to scare the thief away. He went outdoors and listened intently. There was no sound of a person running through the woods. At the back of the cabin by the broken window, Hunter studied the ground. In the thick carpet of pine needles there were no traces, but in a small space where the earth was bare, he saw one clear footprint made by a heavy boot. One corner of the boot, the heel, was missing. If he saw that print again, anywhere, he could identify it. If the guy didn't come here to steal, why did he break the window? Would a stranger or an island teenager come this far off the beaten track and break a window just for fun? Hunter didn't think so, but if things like this were going to happen, how could he keep his Indian treasures safe? He knew he ought to clean up the broken glass, but right now he didn't feel like it. There were so many puzzles to sort out. Then suddenly Hunter remembered his grandfather saying, Place your moccasins on the bit of the trail you can see. Take that step, and then the next one will be clear. It was as if Grandfather had spoken to him. Hunter switched on the light and got the broom. After the floor was swept clean, the boy's glance fell on a huge wood box that stood between the stove and the window. Among the chunks of wood, and there were bits of glass. That could be dangerous if he were to pick up a chunk carelessly. With a sigh, he began lifting out the wood to get at the glass slivers. As he did, an idea hit him like a bursting 4th of July rocket. This was the place to hide the treasures. Slowly and carefully removing the glass bits, Hunter pulled out the sticks until they were all on the floor. Next, he wrapped each Indian handcraft in some of Grandfather's old clothing. When they were in the bottom of the box with more padding on top, Hunter put the wood back. The sticks that were left over he took outside and added to the wood pile. Returning, he gazed at the box in triumph. It simply looked like the supply of wood for the stove and nothing else. He felt that Grandfather had led him to this great hiding place. He was too tired now to return to town. He opened a can of beans for supper. As he climbed into bed a little later, he remembered the man riding the girl's bike. Where should he and Rusty look for him tomorrow? What about the hidden bicycles? He couldn't decide, but he knew he had to find those bikes or find the thief before Kirby did. See you next time.